Everyone, and welcome to our City of Gallatin Council Committee meeting for December 10th of 2024. It's time to begin, and we'll start with asking Ms. Kittrell to please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Love,
Here.
Councilman Allison,
Present.
Councilman Carter,
Present.
Councilman Fan,
You.
Councilman Vanell,
Here.
Councilman Hayes, and Councilman Juvance. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Connie. Next up, we have approval of the minutes from November 12th, 2024's Council Committee minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilman Hayes and a second from Councilman Carter. Is there any discussion or additions? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes. Next up is time for public recognition. If you are here to bring any concerns or address the council in any way, you may come forward to the podium and give us your name and address and speak for 5 minutes on any issue. So I declare public recognition is open. Come forward if anyone would like. Seeing no one approach, I'll declare public recognition is closed. Next up, I'm excited that we're going to have our annual report from the Gallatin Department of Electricity General Manager Mark Kimball.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Love. You should have our audit report from Gallatin Department of Electricity before you. If you want to turn or just listen, you can. I always look at 2 places in the audit report. The first one is on page II, which is in the front. It's about the 4th page. The second paragraph, in our opinion, based on our audit and the report of the other auditors, accompanying financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the business type activity of Gallatin Department of Electricity of June 30th, 2024. That's just saying that the electric department provided all that information and they thought it was correct. And then you go to the back, page 47, and it says, down at the bottom of page 47, during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. And if you turn to the next page, the last part of the first paragraph, the results of our test disclose no instances of noncompliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. So we were told we had a clean audit. And we've had a good year. If you look through the report, there's some listings on page V or 5. Some of the highlights that we've had, just hit a couple of them. We added 1,812 customers last year, which is an all-time high for Gallatin. That put us at over 7% growth. And I'm pretty certain that that's the highest growth in the Tennessee Valley. Out of 153 local power companies, Gallatin grew the fastest. We had a lot of accomplishments this last year. If you've driven by the department, we have several new truck facilities going up, which we've been in need of for many, many years, and it's getting very exciting. So in this next year, March or April, we'll probably open up the new facilities and start using them. Looking forward to that. Just a couple of other notes. Miss Rachel Nichols here at the city helped us with a bond sale, and I appreciate all her help that she provided during that time. We had a great bond sale where we were looking for some sell bonds for capital expenses. We have 2 substations coming up. The substations are about $10 million apiece. So that's 20 million, and then our construction at our office is a little bit over 10 million, and actually we've paid cash mostly for it so far. We've already paid about 7 million on about 10.6 million for phase one of our building project, so we're well into that. I'm going to miss Linda Love. We've had her for 2 years on our board, and the vice mayor is heading off to greener pastures, and we are going to miss her greatly, so I'll be needing a good board member from the council, and we'll be looking for the mayor to make that suggestion in the next month. So looking forward to that. And with that, I'll throw it out there. Are there any questions on our audit or anything else?
I'll certainly miss being on that board. It was a wonderful opportunity. Did someone have questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mark. I enjoy going by and seeing all the improvements and the construction that's going on. Thank you again, Mark. For comments on upcoming events, of course, this is our last actual council meeting of this year. We'll see everyone again on January the 7th. Coming up this week on the 12th is Christmas Open House at the Gallatin Public Library from 5 to 7 p.m. I believe Santa Claus is going to be there. Wreaths Across America ceremony at Gallatin's Historic City Cemetery is going to be held on Saturday, and that is at 10 a.m., a wonderful event where we honor those who are buried there, who were veterans, with wreaths. Followed by the Gallatin Christmas Parade, which has always been one of our favorite traditions in Gallatin. We've got one of the best parades around anywhere, so please make sure you're there. That kicks off at 12 o'clock from Steam Plant Road next to the hospital and ends up over at Gallatin High School. That same evening at 6 p.m., the Palace Theater will be showing the movie The Grinch. And then on Sunday, there will be a Christmas concert with Ernie Haas and Signature Sound at First Baptist of Gallatin from 6 to 9. On the 17th, we have something to celebrate, which is Councilman Josh Stephen Carter's birthday. And then on the 20th, Arthur Christmas will be the movie at the Palace, and the 21st, Palace will be showing It's a Wonderful Life. Then on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, of course, most of our city offices will be closed, so keep that in mind. And then we'll have met by then, but I'll mention that on the 9th of January, we'll be celebrating Miss Rachel Nichols' birthday, too. So I look forward to seeing everybody back again in January. Hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas, of course. And now we're ready to begin our regular agenda for the evening. So our first item on the agenda will be Brian Rose, our city planner, who's going to discuss an ordinance number 02412-73.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Love and members of the council. My name is Brian Rose. I'm the city planner, presenting on an East Broadway Road and Airport Road project. The owner and applicant are requesting to rezone 104.87 acres from the R15 medium density residential to the IR industrial restrictive district. It's located south of East Broadway and east of Airport Road. The property is outlined in red here on the TV. You can see in purple to the south is the IR district. So this would be an extension of that, just a little bit north of that, but it is surrounded on three sides by the IR district. You do have to the northwest some agricultural and a little bit of R15 district in this area. And then also to the northeast, you have the Oak Hills subdivision development, which is planned for this entire area to the northeast. Part of the development has already been constructed, but a large portion of it has not been constructed at this time. Staff feels that this would be a good opportunity to expand our industrial capabilities in an area already widely affected by industrial development. Plan Gallatin designates this area as part of the suburban community character area. The plan describes the form of the suburban community character area as a mixture of residential neighborhoods and subdivisions with some multifamily dwelling options with appropriate landscaping and design buffers for traffic and noise mitigation. This recommended density range is between 2 and 5 dwelling units per acre. And the current R15 zoning is compatible with this character area, and this property, if this property were to eventually develop as residential, the suburban community character area is likely most appropriate. However, the community character area map does not clearly address industrial or commercial districts in any of our character areas. The Plan Gallatin does designate this area as part of the Gallatin Industrial Center sub-area as a major employment center. I'm going to go to another slide here. So this is the sub-area plan in our Plan Gallatin. This little gray splotch right there on the map indicates this Gallatin Industrial Center sub-area. And so that is what sort of indicates that this area has been thought about for an industrial expansion, and is for that reason that we recommended to the Planning Commission that they consider this, and the Planning Commission did look at this and consider it and did vote by a vote of 5-0 to recommend approval. I'll give you a couple of the objectives that are part of that goal, and that is to nurture the core industries of Gallatin's economic base. That's goal number 1, objective 1.1. Goal number 1, objective 1.2 is to support economic expansion in targeted sectors. This does comply with the overall intent of Plan Gallatin, and more specifically, the Gallatin Gateway Industrial Center sub-area as shown up above on the plan. With that, I'll ask if you have any questions. I believe the applicant is here tonight as well and would be able to answer any questions if you do have any.
Brian, does anyone have any questions? If not, do we have a?
Motion to send it on.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Hayes to send this to council, second by Councilman Juvance. Is there any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of sending this to council, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, motion passes. Number 2 on the agenda, ordinance number 02412-74, also will be addressed by Brian Rose.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Love. This project is a commercial development. The owner and applicant are requesting approval of an amended preliminary master development plan for the East Broadway retail development. It's consisting of 10,368 square feet of multi-tenant commercial space. It's on a 1.93 plus or minus acre lot located north of East Broadway and east of Municipal Park Drive. Just for clarification on that, East Broadway is along here, Municipal Park Drive is right here, and of course we've got the Municipal Park behind that. There was an apartment complex developed previously prior on the property behind this. It had at some point already contemplated doing a commercial development on this property. And then subsequent to that, they came in and got approval. This is back in 1998, I believe. I didn't put the date. Anyway, they had come in and requested to get that approved so that they could expand the apartment complex, which so they do have the ability right now to be able to do that. Of course, it's been several years now since then. Now they're coming back in and coming full circle, wanting to do the strip center development again for commercial development. So it does make sense. It's on a main corridor. We felt like this is a good site to move forward with that. There will be one access point on this property to East Broadway. That's right there in the center. Circulation kind of comes in and goes all the way around. There would be potential for a secondary access point to the property to the north. That would be pending development of that site, and it would have to wait until that site is developed before the connection could essentially be made. There are a total of 69 parking spaces on the property, including 3 ADA accessible spaces, which is compliant with our regulation. Stormwater will be sent to the west side of the property. Elevations have been submitted, and this is what they are. Planning Commission did review this. It's not in compliance with the 70% brick rule, but they did grant an exception as part of their review during the Planning Commission consideration. The commission voted by 5-0 to recommend approval of the City Council. And again, I can answer any questions that you may have regarding this. I believe the applicant again is here.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Hayes, a second from Councilman Juvance. Any more discussion or questions? What are they going to put instead of brick?
It's a mixture of, I'd have to look at the actual, but I believe there is some brick, and then in addition, it would be other materials. If the applicant is here and knows and wants to come up and give you that answer, I'd be happy to accept their help.
Or it's
Jim Lukens with Ware Malcolm, and it's going to be mostly glass storefront on the front with the brick columns, ephes on the top, and then around the back would be the painted CMU.
Thank you. Does anybody?
It's gonna be 5 units.
It's shell space, so we're not sure. We're looking at probably restaurant and part of it on the part and retail and the rest. I can find one. It's shell retail, so we don't know who the tenants will be just yet, but they're going to look for, maybe some restaurant and retail.
An overall exterior shell of the building, and then they wait until they have the actual tenant before they decide how that space is divided up. So that kind of helps them determine how many people would be there.
Anybody else? Well, we have a motion on the floor to send this to council. All in favor, say aye. 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 Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, number 3 on the agenda is also Mr. Rose. This is resolution number R2412-97.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Love and council members. I'm going to actually address numbers 3 and 4 as it is both in regards to the Wheeler property annexation. The first item is the plan of services, And then the second is actual resolution for the annexation. City has received application, let's see, for the annexation of this Wheeler property. It's outlined in yellow here, and the Wheeler property is generally bounded by Nichols to the north and Woods Ferry to the east. It actually doesn't touch either of those roads, but those are the closest cross streets. What you do have is Ferguson Boulevard that comes down towards it and would eventually potentially be the connection point for Ferguson through into the Kirkpatrick property. Currently, the design is that it would come up through a small sliver of space, but I believe that may be something that the applicants will come to us and want to change once this property's been annexed. We don't technically have application for what the property would be, although we expect that they will come in with a property request to develop the property for residential purposes. So we don't know any sort of numbers on number of units and densities and things like that at this time, but we believe that it would be the same builder that's working with the Kirkpatrick property, and so that would sort of make it easy to make those connections all the way through for Clear Lake Meadows to come all the way down through the Kirkpatrick property and then down into connect to the banks at Lock 4. A portion of the Wheeler property is already in the city. That's this portion here outside the yellow line but adjacent to Woods Ferry Road. That portion is not part of the application today, but would likely be part of the application for a development proposal. As far as the plan of services is concerned, we have solicited input from the city's departments. The plan of services has been included in your report. Most of the infrastructure necessary to serve this development would be provided by the developer as part of that development. We did get input from the police department that they would want to see one additional staff person to be able to support this development at this time, and one additional police vehicle as well. Besides that, most other services would be provided, again, by the developer, water and sewer, roads, all of that, and then that would be accepted by the city once it's completed and to a satisfactory level as determined by the city engineer. Property taxes on the property are as follows, as $232 that they pay for this property for the county, and then to the city, it's $54. Upon development of this property, these numbers would increase substantially. So it does help to make sense for us, tax-wise at least, that we annex this property. It also helps to make those roadway connections that are, they've been under the plans for a long time. This property was considered by the Planning Commission on November 18th. They voted by a vote of 5-0 to recommend approval to the City Council. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions about this? Councilman Juvance.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You just talked about tax, but where is the feasibility study for that, for this annexation? Are we supposed to have a feasibility study?
The feasibility study comes to you prior to when the annexation application comes. So you've already seen that feasibility study as part of your consideration. And that is essentially was the responses that end up turning into what the plan of services becomes. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Sure.
Motion from Councilman Hayes to send both of those on to council. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Carter. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed?
No.
One abstention, one no, and 5 ayes. All right, so it will move on to council. And it's number 3 and number 4. We kept you busy tonight, Brian. All right, number 5 on our agenda, resolution number R2412-95, and here to present that is Nick Tuttle.
Good evening, everyone. I have with me Aaron Hickson, Assistant City Engineer for Development and Traffic, and I also have a traffic consultant that has helped us over the years for a long time, Greg Judy from Neil Schaefer Incorporated. And they'll both speak tonight as we kind of make this presentation for you. So just really quick, we have an old policy that no one has really been satisfied with results. We'd like to have you adopt a new policy for the city, and we're going to tell you about what our old policy has and how we're the fallacies of it and how we want to move forward with the new policy. So don't want to take too much more of your time, so let's jump into it.
Alrighty. So what is the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program? So it's a program in which residents work in partnership with the Engineering Division and Traffic Calming Steering Committee to develop a traffic calming method for that specific neighborhood. It's designed to identify, prioritize, and help mitigate the undesirable effects of traffic in residential neighborhoods. The common goal for traffic calming projects are to lower the speed and provide safer street accommodations for non-drivers. So our current program that Nick alluded to has not been updated since at least 2006. It starts with where an applicant will fill out the questionnaire and include a signed petition. Our police department will collect traffic data. Traffic calming measures are selected based on that traffic data. It has a required 85% positive feedback, and there's no toolbox of traffic calming measures that we can use. So some issues that we faced with this, like I said, the petition had to be signed by at least 50% of the homes in that affected area. And for measures to be installed permanently, 85% of the neighborhood must agree. It's hard enough to get 2 people to agree on the same thing, much less when you're talking about a whole street or an entire neighborhood. Like I said, there's no toolbox, and there was no threshold to actually say we need traffic calming measures in this neighborhood. So some proposed updates to this program. It's got a similar application and data collection process as before, but instead of 50%, we're looking for 4 separate resident owners, including thresholds for implementation, creation of a traffic calming steering committee. Feedback has been changed from 85% to a neighborhood meeting with a comment period, and also providing a toolbox of traffic calming measures. So the thresholds of implementation that we're talking about here is street classification, speed, and volume. The streets that are applicable for traffic calming must be classified as either a residential local or residential collector street. No traffic calming would be applied to a major or minor arterials or commercial collector streets. So some examples of residential local streets, if we're talking about the Fairway Farm subdivision, you're talking about Walpole Drive, Fannis Circle. They have a residential collector street in that neighborhood like Windling Boulevard. The adjacent subdivision, Buckingham Boulevard, would be considered a collector street. Some examples of arterials, National Pike, Long Hollow Pike, those major routes. An example of a commercial collector street would be Gateway Drive. The speed threshold would be that the results from the traffic study need to show a 85th percentile speed, or the majority of speeders need to be going 8 miles or greater over the posted speed limit. And then volume thresholds, we're looking for an average daily traffic between 500 and 5,000 vehicles per day. The Traffic Calming Steering Committee. This is a diversified review team consisting of appropriate officials from the city, emergency services, and other public servant agencies. So we'd be looking for at least one representative from the following departments. We'd want somebody from City Council, appointed by City Council every 2 years, a member from Building Codes Departments, E911, Engineering Division, Fire Department, Planning Department, Police Department, and the Public Works Department. So after this is adopted, what would be the process? So like before, questionnaire is filled out and submitted to the Engineering Division. The application is reviewed, and the applicant is notified about the process and the steps moving forward. We would have traffic studies scheduled. We would review those traffic studies once we get those, and then based on those results from the traffic studies, we would contact the applicant saying that it either didn't meet the thresholds or here's the steps moving forward. So using a tiered implementation approach, Tier 1 would consist of non-construction strategies, and Tier 2 are ones that typically require construction. Tier 1 would be tried first for a period of 2 weeks to several months to see how effective it is, and if that doesn't yield the desired results, we would follow up with a traffic study to make sure that it's not working, and then Tier 2 could be explored. Once we hit the Tier 2 measures, that's when the steering committee would be involved, and we would need a neighborhood meeting followed by a 30-day comment period. At that time, the steering committee would present the findings to the neighborhood and get feedback at that meeting, as well as open a 30-day period where we would get feedback on if the neighborhood is for that option. And then based on the feedback, if the majority are in favor of that, we would install as a temporary measure and let that be out there for a period of 2 weeks to several months as well. If everything's great, we'll hold another neighborhood meeting. Do you want this installed permanently? If we get the majority saying, yes, that's what we want, then we'll move forward with that. So before I get into the tiered options, I want to talk about some common requests that we've heard. I'm sure y'all have heard as well. You know, install slow children at play signs in my neighborhood, install an always stop, install speed bumps, or lower the speed. So these options are not viable to help correct the driver behavior. Studies have shown the signs on this list don't produce the desired results and aren't even allowed in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or the MUTCD, and that's the federal publication on signage, pavement markings, traffic signals. It's what all the municipalities follow. So Tier 1 measures, as I mentioned before, are things like signage, striping, request for enhanced police enforcement on top of what they already do in the neighborhood, a speed limit feedback signing, basically stuff that doesn't require physical barriers or things like that put into the right-of-way. Tier 2, I won't go too much into these. We'll have some examples here and where some are actually installed across the city. But one I did want to talk about is speed cushions. So those are as close to speed bumps as what we're wanting to go, but they are seen as a last step in a strategic plan. They have separate eligibility requirements. They have a volume cap. If the street has more than 2,500 vehicles per day, we don't want to implement the speed cushions. And then we have to try other Tier 2 options first before we look at the speed cushions. And so with that, I'll pass it on to Greg to kind of give you a description of the different Tier 2 measures that we've got and some examples.
Vice Mayor, Council, it's good to be with you all this evening. Again, my name is Greg Judy. I'm a professional engineer, and we've partnered with Nick, Aaron, and the engineering department for many years. So we've appreciate our relationships with you all. Aaron had asked me to be here tonight to step through these next few slides that you'll see are some of the examples and it's good visuals to kind of give you a sense of what some of the treatments are. And we're kind of playing this cold. Aaron and I didn't practice a whole lot, but this really meant to be a little conversational. So really the purpose is to you all to have a chance to ask questions. based on our experience, and we do this type of work with other agencies around Middle Tennessee, so we've got some experience there. But every site's unique, every situation's unique, so we try to treat it that way. So again, please speak up if you have any questions or want to dive a little deeper on some of these treatments that we'll be seeing. I think one thought that I'll leave with you as we step through these is, from a technical standpoint, we talk a lot about deflection. So when vehicles, drivers approach these treatments, the commonality that you'll see with these is either a vertical deflection or a horizontal deflection. So in this case, this would be a horizontal where a vehicle would have to move left to right. You know, the vertical deflection would be more obviously kind of up and down. So that's kind of some of the thought process, but with these type of action items. But again, the other thing I would kind of stress too, this is very much a residential traffic calming, traffic management program. Again, not meant for collector, arterial, functionally classified streets around the city. But again, so here again, this would be a horizontal treatment with, installing a feature basically in the center of the roadway to, again, create awareness, to kind of force those drivers to have to change their path as they maneuver around the feature. And traffic circles, and we'll get to roundabouts in a second, but I want to distinguish, it's very distinguished between just traffic circles and roundabouts. Traffic circles, in a very layman's terms, would literally just be a circular feature that's, I say very non-technical, plopped in the middle of an intersection with not a lot of design features to it. Again, it's meant for very low volume. This is a yield condition. Honestly, it could occur in two-way stop intersections. There's different varieties and ways that these features could be used, but again, could be ornamental features as this one does in the center. Again, just meant to break up those sight lines, meant to break up the kind of some of the standardization there of how vehicles and drivers maneuver. Aaron mentioned how 911 and your emergency services department would be on the committee. As y'all probably have talked with those folks in the past, these traffic calming features obviously is something that they're concerned with as far as the response times, and again, that's something that is dealt with and considered through this process. So again, it's all part of it. So again, a couple different features with a roundabout, or modern roundabout is sometimes we call them. You'll see that they have these what we call splitter islands that actually help deflect and help guide vehicles, up on the approach to and into the circle itself. These are engineered in a way that they are meant to control speeds, define speeds, maybe 15 miles an hour, maybe 20, 25 miles an hour, depending on the situation. So again, the main point difference between roundabouts and traffic circles that I would want to leave you with is just, again, the roundabouts are much more formally designed and formally thought of compared to the traffic circles, but both generally obviously approach the traffic management side of it in a similar way. So curb extensions, also sometimes called bulb outs. These, as much as they are a traffic management feature, they're also a pedestrian accessibility and accommodation treatment. You'll see these a lot. One major component of this is it reduces the crossing distance that pedestrians have to cross from one side of the street to the other. It generally falls in line with the sidewalks that are available in conjunction with the crosswalk markings. But again, the idea is the curb extensions or these little bulb outs at the radii of the intersection are meant to bring the pedestrians a little closer into the intersection, more in the line of sight of the drivers. So as drivers approach, those pedestrians will be more in their line of view. And again, really one of the main calling cards, if you will, of our design approach is just really to reduce the length of the distance that pedestrians have to be out exposed in the roadway, and then these bulb outs, and whether it's in early neighborhood situations or even in downtown, kind of multi-use kind of situations, those are effective treatments. Now, chokers, don't see quite as many of these around, but again, this goes back to horizontal deflection. Again, trying to kind of, particularly in a real tangent, straight type of geometric alignment with the neighborhood streets that, again, provides a a way for drivers to have to maneuver around these, again, to reduce speeds. And sometimes you'll see signage or other kind of tubular markers in these to help signify those, but that this is an option. And I guess another thought while we're here, they're all not really, one's not created equal. It really depends on the particular situation. So as the committee and engineering department reviews these and as these proposals come before them, I think the intent is that they'll all cases we looked at their own individual needs and kind of go through the process of trying to identify which of these treatments are maybe best suited for any particular situation. Kind of the next level of kind of pedestrian treatment and going beyond is the curb bulb outs and curb extensions, are these concepts of these speed tables or raised crosswalks. These could occur at intersections. In this case, what you're seeing here, it's a mid-block situation. But again, it's done kind of in consultation with signing and markings, and again, meant to where there's a need or a demand from a pedestrian crossing. Obviously, it could be schools or other land uses. But again, a way to create some enhancements and focal points for kind of marrying up these conditions where multimodal users are interacting with vehicular traffic to try to make that more of a safe situation, but again, acts as a kind of a traffic calming, traffic management program. So when we step up from that is a full-blown raised intersection, and these actually are becoming a little bit more popular. We're seeing a lot, I think, more interest in these type of treatments. Generally, again, more, not your large intersections, obviously, but these smaller intersections in kind of a multi-use, land use type areas where you have a lot of mixture between pedestrian, multimodal, and vehicular traffic. And as you can see, the whole intersection is kind of raised up to one grade level where the pedestrians cross at that point. And again, just acts as a focal point, sometimes even as a gateway. Some of these treatments can act as a kind of a gateway into a new area to kind of, again, create that environment to alert the drivers that, hey, you're now entering in a maybe a little different arena and scene there. So again, all these are kind of at the disposal and in the toolbox, as we said, to move that effort along. I think this may be the last one. This is really less about horizontal or vertical deflection for drivers negotiating certain roadways, but I think in terms of textured pavements, I'm sure y'all have driven over these, is really to get driver alerted to maybe a change in posted speed limit or maybe entering a high pedestrian area. It's kind of one of those rumble strip actions that you drive across. The one thing about these that we've seen, sometimes lessons learned, honestly, that there's a noise factor that comes along with these. So as a driver drives over them, you'll get that do-do-do-do type effect. And if there happen to be residential, land uses or homes near these type of features, you tend to get negative feedback from these just because of the noise clutter, if you will, that comes from that. So these can be effective, especially if you're trying to create driver awareness, slowing down and that kind of thing. But if it's in a kind of a residential area, we tend to kind of steer away from these. And some of that will get vetted out through the process of the committee and the kind of the public information process that will be as a part of your all's new and I guess new program. So, but these are treatments that you typically will see. And then I guess finally, speed cushions. Several years ago, they were referred to as speed humps. One thing that I think that you notice are there's kind of wheel pads in between these humps. So the old style humps didn't have those wheel pads, and that serves a couple of purposes, mainly for, as you can see on the left, the emergency vehicles. But the speed humps are effective, obviously changing the vertical deflection for vehicles, and I know the city has a few of these around, and as Aaron described, these are kind of a last resort, or kind of last case that they obviously have the most impact, can have the most impact on driver behavior and maybe sometimes in a good and a bad way, depending on what the feedback is. But they obviously are been proven effective, and I think one thing that maybe has not been mentioned yet, but I think there is an intent to do some before-after type data collection to be able to, as these are deployed, to see kind of what an effect that they're having. So I think with that, I will be quiet. I kind of went through that without any questions. But seriously, if there are any questions or if there anything y'all would like to discuss, that's kind of what we're here for. So, Aaron, or Nick, I'll let you get back to it. But appreciate y'all's time. Hopefully that was helpful.
So as Greg said, at this time we'd take any questions to give you some direction. What we're looking for is you to adopt this program. We think that it is a really good program that we'll be able to administer. I'm sure there's going to be some tweaks that we'll want to make as we work through it. It is our own. We didn't copy anybody exactly, but we've tried to take the best parts from lots of different communities that we've explored and talked to about it. So trying to figure out what would work best for Gallatin. So we think that the committee will make a huge difference, and we've already had some meetings, which I think we talked about in this setting a couple of times before, just about whether or not we felt like speed humps or the speed cushions were an appropriate item to put in the toolbox for us to use. So with that, I'll stop talking and let you.
I'll say that raised crosswalk on Greenway Drive sure does slow me down.
Yeah, we did actually try to use, which you saw all the examples that were in our toolbox were things that were in Gallatin, except for the raised intersection. And we actually are looking at that potentially for our Bly Avenue project, which we think would be a pretty cool way to use that style of traffic calming there in that area.
I like that there's so many different options that I didn't really know about those.
Yeah, didn't you?
You have options so people can kind of choose, and you kind of sleep. And okay, again, you're going to get a lot of different opinions.
You don't, on existing, I mean, and we found this out, it's tough to put roundabouts because the streets are not wide enough, if you don't go in there and acquire property and do all that. So
It is.
It's tough to do that, which that's probably one of the most effective. When we did that
Right.
one, you showed that one on Greenlee, the first one?
So traffic circle, Greenlee, or Grassland Chase.
Yeah, I was the HOA president at that time, so I kind of
Yep.
initiated that, and Ronnie Stiles really helped design that and
Right.
everything, and whoever the engineer was at that time. So, were you?
Yeah, I was
Okay,
here.
well, I didn't know.
It looks good also.
Yeah, it does.
It is. It's a really good
The
one.
only thing that I don't like, I'm familiar with all of them, but the wedges where they stick out in the road to make the car, I mean, that's just,
Right, on Vinings Boulevard.
yeah, I don't get that part.
Makes you slow down, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You see a lot of those,
Especially if you hit them.
you'll see those kind of retrofit situations. And I'll contrast that back with the roundabout.
Step up here, Greg.
Yeah, sure, I'm sorry. What I was saying is, that's a retrofit type situation in a lot of cases, and I'll contrast that with the roundabouts or even sometimes the traffic circles. In a perfect world, you'd have those integrated as a part of it, like a new subdivision design or a multi-use, larger type development, so that you have the right-of-way, that you're talking about the footprint that is required. And the roundabouts can be really tough to retrofit in a both from a constructability standpoint, but also just, like you said, the land and the size it takes.
And, that's another point. I hope, and I think we probably are, but in newer subdivisions now, taking a look at that. I mean, a good example of that is Carrollton that was developed, later. I don't think you could go in and put a roundabout anywhere down that long road, but, that's something we need to look at when you're going to have a long road going through the whole subdivision, to do a roundabout or something here and make the road wide enough.
Sure. There is one roundabout that's further back in there, but it's not really. It's probably a little bit off the path.
What's the one by Cambridge Farms? They did it, right? Fairway Farms?
Yes.
Fairway,
Yes.
They have
There are
3
several
along
of those that are, more traffic circles than roundabouts, but yes.
Yeah.
I think they work really well.
Go ahead. So a traffic circle is the same concept as a roundabout, but smaller, and it's just
Correct.
a yield. I think
Basically.
people around here are just nervous about them, but the more that we use those, the easier it is. I think it's a good solution if they fit. Councilman Juvance.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I like the program. I just have a couple of things. The people who came in on public comments, the main comment they had was the time that was taking to do something. And I think if we look on the planning side, when someone bring an application to the planning, they have a time limit, they have to be in to present it to us. And I think we should have that there. So at least when people bring an application, they know that that can be 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, but they know that in 120 days or 90 days, whatever we decide, they're going to have an answer. And I think we owe that to the applicants. That I think we should put that there. And the 30-day comment section you have in there, where you say at the end of the 30-day comment, if a majority is against it, we're not going to do anything. But how you decide, we know how people get involved or don't get involved. So if you put a 30-day comment and you have only one comment and the one comment is negative, you're going to dump the project. That I think that should be a little more defined of what we can do with that comment section.
Sure. I guess the best way to look at it is what we're doing with that is we're proposing a plan that we believe is adequate. It will work. It will satisfy what the issues are that we have identified. So we have clearly identified issues, and this is a plan that will satisfy correcting that. So what we're looking for from the comment period is if really major opposition. If there isn't major opposition, then we plan to move forward. That's what the strategy is. And I think what we were trying to avoid was, having to, again, we had that conversation about the 85% or even dropping it to 75 or 65, and just whatever number we came up with, it seemed like it may not fit every situation. So we wanted to leave it open. But the goal and the idea is that we're proposing a plan that we feel will work and will work well, and otherwise we wouldn't be proposing the plan and it wouldn't be going forward. So we're just looking for the comment period to be, if you got a problem, you need to say something now.
And another thing too, on the speed percentile, where we have just one, that was what, 5% more or something like that. On the requirement to get the study. I'm okay with the percentage, but if you take 5% at 20 miles per hour or 5% at 50 miles per hour, that's a, different. So maybe it should be a scale there for the different speeds we have, because that's going to be easier to burst at 20 miles per hour than at 45 miles per hour, depending on how people drive. They're just ideas.
Right. Okay.
But I think the time frame should be there. We should have somewhere who say, when you put your application, you're going to have at least an answer after this amount of days, so people know what to expect.
There's some fairness to that. I think that there are some things that we can fill in on the timeline, but then there are some other things that, depending upon the measures we install and how we want to measure the effectiveness of the measure, that's where it gets a little bit more challenging to set a definitive timeline, if that makes sense. I'm going to try to think of an example.
I'm talking more about the first part.
Just for how, when we respond, when we set a meeting. Sure, absolutely.
Part.
Yeah, we could easily do that. And I think the study time is going to be the time that may be a little bit more difficult to pin down. But yeah.
If you come back and say, hey, we looked at it, we're going to go at tier 1, and, we're going to start something, people are going to react differently than if they don't know what's going to happen. And
sure.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, and I don't think Aaron, he didn't get into these details, but he did actually have some of what our expected timelines are in our notes, and he just didn't share that.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, application review, once they submit it, we would try to respond to them within 1 to 2 weeks, depending on when we receive it. Just kind of go through the process with them, what it's going to take. Like Nick said, the traffic study, that part's going to take a while, depending on the area, the size of the area that you're looking at. I know sometimes we've deployed the traffic collection, and don't have remote access to it, so it's been out there for a week. We get it back, and it only took 45 minutes or very little data. But then after we get that review, yeah, we'll definitely reach out to them. And then if it's a tier 1 that's more of signage or marking, I think that probably could take 1 to 2 weeks to actually implement that once we have identified that.
If we have that, let's put it in there. Let's say, application 2 weeks. Take your margin. If you think it's going to be 2 weeks, put 3 weeks.
Sure.
And at least when people put an application, they know that 3 weeks later it's going to come. And if 3 weeks later that doesn't come, we come back and say, hey, we need 1 more week, but for that and that reason. And I think that's how we should, do things so the public stay informed of what's going on, and that's going to make everybody's job a lot easier.
Fair enough.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to make a motion, if I can do it now, that we go ahead and implement this. It is a plan, and there won't be any perfect plan. It never is. But I appreciate what y'all have done to study this, and I make the motion to move it on.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to move this on to council. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it moves
Thank you,
on to
guys.
council. That was a good presentation, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is number 6. Where Rachel Nichols, our finance director, will be talking about capital improvement plan.
Before the meeting tonight, I dropped a packet off on everyone's desk. As I've mentioned a couple of weeks, I want to get this information to you and have you look over it, study it for the next few weeks. And then in January, the first work session in January, we'll discuss in more detail. The pages that are horrible and are just numbers, which I love, but most people hate, these are the pages that I really need you to focus on. These are all the projects that have been requested or are anticipated in the next 10 years from all the different offices that are in excess of $200,000 for the items. As if you'll turn to page 3 and 4, that'll be your general fund totals. And as you can see, in a couple of years, there's $29 million worth of request, almost $30 million worth of request, and anticipated growth of infrastructure, equipment, facilities, land. Then 2 years later, there's another $38 million of request. I need to know how y'all want to prioritize these projects. Obviously, we don't have money to fund that with cash, but if you want to keep it on these timelines, then we need to consider bond issues, or we need to bump some of the projects into future years to where we could spread it out and better fund them. Once you give us a prioritized list, I'll work with our grant coordinator and we'll start hunting grants immediately to see if there's any grant funding available for the projects that you're wanting to do. And then we'll have a better plan on what will be included in next year's budget, what will be included in future year budget for these big ticket items. So for now, I just would like you to take these and look over them and prioritize or start thinking about how you want to prioritize these different projects. The handout has a pie chart, line graph, and then spreadsheet for each fund. There's one for the general fund, one for stormwater, one for environmental services, water, sewer, and gas. And so that's my request. There's a lot of data in there. If you have any questions, the department that has requested it is listed beside it. Please feel free to call them or me if you're wanting some more detail on the project. Each of the departments have provided a a summary and a justification for the project, but there's one for every one of these projects, so it's very thick, very massive. I didn't bring that tonight, but I do have that available. I can email them, or again, if you want to call me or the department head, we'll be glad to talk about them. And we'll have this back on the January 14th, maybe, agenda.
Rachel, do you think you could get this print a little smaller next time and not waste all this ink?
I will try my best. I will email it to you, and we can make it as big as you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
A lot of good projects there.
Yes, a lot of good things going on, a lot of good projects, but how are we going to tackle them?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7 on the agenda is Nick Tuttle is going to talk about ordinance number 02410-57.
So this may be premature. I don't know when you want to see this exactly, but you asked that it be brought back to you when the CIP was brought to you. So I got it on the agenda right after the CIP was given to you, and here it is. I can go back into the discussion as deep as you want to go, if we want to deal with it now, or if you actually want to take some time to look at the CIP before you decide on which direction you want to go. The main question was, do we want to appropriate $150,000 now, or $425,000 now, or push off the expense into the next budget year or even later?
What was the difference in cost? 150 was for?
150,000 was to take the existing items out there and get it up to it functional, and then 425,000 would be to basically go in and put in our standard black mast arm.
And we're getting 50 from?
Yes, we are getting. I think it was right at 50. Yes.
I think they agreed.
So we will get that reimbursed at some point in time when they go to pull a building permit.
Here's my thing. We probably need to go ahead and do it because it's going to take some time to get the mast arms if we do go that route. So, that's my thinking on it.
Yeah, as I was saying, we're probably looking at about a year. If we do need to go into design, which we would for the mast arm, then, I'm going to need 3 to 6 months to get that design work done before we can then make the order for the mast arms. So you're year and a half from when we appropriate the money.
Yeah. You need a guidance on that? That's kind of the route I would like to see.
You have the ordinance. If you want to change it to 425, you would need to amend that. But it's whatever you all would like to do.
Okay. Susan, can we go ahead and send this to council and then we amend it at the council meeting? Or do we need to go ahead and amend it now?
You can do it either way, but if this body wants to move with a 425, move forward with that, I think you discuss it tonight so that it can be on the agenda at 425, so that everyone that's looking at the agenda knows what they're actually looking at.
That's my thinking on it. I'd like to see us do that. What's everybody else think?
I'd rather say the 425.
I want to make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we sit it on the council, changing the ordinance to 425.
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion from Councilman Hayes and a second from Councilman Fennell to send this to council, but with the change of 425,000 instead of 150,000. Anybody else having Councilman Juvance?
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to abstain because I want to look at the numbers before to see if that's worth it or not. So I will abstain.
Anyone else? All in favor of sending this to council as in the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So 6 ayes and 1 abstention.
Okay.
Let's see, you're up again, Nick, for
Yes, ma'am.
number 8.
I did give what I felt like was a good summary in the blue sheet that was included in your packet. Really, we're just looking for $20,000 to be appropriated. We gave hundreds of thousands of dollars back because we didn't think that we would need it, but to finish out a modification to the southbound 109 ramp. We want to, if you may or may not have noticed, but we do have a queuing issue where it backs up onto 109 southbound there. So we want to make an improvement there. And then the other improvement is just simple timing update on the Long Hollow Pike corridor. So the 4 signals that are along Long Hollow Pike going into 386. It's been about 4 or 5 years since we updated the timing. And so we're ready to do that again. And we just need, we've got a little over 80,000 in the bank. We need another 20 to make both of those things happen.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send this to council. Councilman Jumons.
Thank you, ma'am. We basically stopped the improvement back there because we were waiting for TDOT
Correct.
to do their work, and that got put on the back burner. Do you have any update on that?
Yeah, so you're correct. What we know right now is it's in TDOT's 10-year plan and what you're referring to is the extension of 386 coming up to the 109 interchange. It's in the 10-year plan for TDOT for construction in FY31. And so they're planning to take it to bid December of 2030 to be exact. But that is still 6 years from today. That's when they would begin construction.
Yeah.
So we're still going to have to live in, if it goes according to plan and schedule, we're still going to have to live in some tension. And we decided to not make major improvements on the corridor because it was going to be torn out and wouldn't be useful anymore. So that's the best information I have. TDOT is a little bit behind on updating their 10-year plan for the next year, but they look to do that in the spring, and we may have new information there. But that's what I know now.
Because if that takes 10 years for TDOT to do something, we're gonna be in trouble back there because
It's not going to get better.
yeah. So we maybe have to think about something even because it's getting worse and worse for sure. And I know it's not your fault. It's TDOT who said they were gonna do it and suddenly buy. So yeah.
We'll continue to monitor. Actually, I think Greg may still be sitting here. His company is helping us with a master transportation plan right now. So they're part of the evaluation process of what our ultimate network looks like. And so if we feel like we need to push something forward, especially if we see that there is more delay expected from TDOT, then you'll be the first one to know. We'll be getting something to you and try to rush something.
Thank you, Nick.
We already have a motion on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Second. All right. Is there any more discussion? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And Nick, you're up again a couple of times, so we're ready for number 9.
The next 3 items are all the same kind of thing, public infrastructure acceptance. All 3 have unanimous recommendations from our Planning Commission. The first one here, item number 9, is Cumberland Point Phase 2, and it includes a portion of Beck's Place and Duval Drive, and this will complete the Cumberland Point subdivision that actually is very close to one of our traffic calming devices that we were referring to off of Red River Road.
Are we doing them separate or altogether?
Did you want to do this?
Do you want me to
can
mention
we,
the other?
Susan?
Do that one separate.
Absolutely.
It's a different one.
So the other 2 items are Newman's Crossing Phase 1 and Newman's Crossing Phase 2A. This subdivision is off of Big Station Camp Boulevard, just south of the Publix at Long Hollow Pike. And there are several roadways in there that would be part of this acceptance. Dawson Drive, Deveron Drive, Breaking Pin Road, Chevelle Drive or Cheval Drive, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that one right, and then the rest of Deveron Drive. And this would complete the residential section of that subdivision between Publix and the other existing subdivision to the south.
Motion for each one individually?
Well, they are, Resolution 91 is it's completely different. I would suggest at least you have two motions, one for Resolution 91, and then you could do 92 and 93 together because they are the same. They're the same project.
I'll make a motion for 91.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Carter and a second from Councilman Fennell on number 9, which is the one that is in Cumberland Point. So, any more discussion? Yes, Councilman Juvance.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. When I was working there on Cumberland Point a few months ago during the campaign, there was something that was kind of funny that just at the intersection of Cumberland Point and the next one is Twin Eagles on Beck's Place.
Mm-hmm.
We're missing a piece of sidewalk. There is probably 10 foot right there with no sidewalk. So I was wondering if it's, that was maybe on phase 1.
Yeah.
It was maybe on phase 1, but I just saw it a couple of months ago. So if you even if you go on Google Map or whatever, you put Beck's Place, you're at Beck's Place, you move from Cumberland to the other one, and you have 10 foot where there's no sidewalk, there's just dirt. So I was wondering if that's an oversight or if one of the developers didn't do it, or maybe, I don't know, that was kind of weird.
I'd have to look into it. I don't know. If you would like, it is something we can, obviously, we're going to have plenty of time before we get to the council meeting in January. We can take a look at it and can let you know if it's an issue for this subdivision before you vote on it, or
yeah, that would be great.
Defer, whichever way you want to go.
Yeah, if you go on Google Maps, you put Beck's Place, and you're going to see it. There is one on one side and not on the other side, so I appreciate it.
We have a motion and a second on number 10. Does anyone else have anything to say about that number 10? Number 9, sorry, about number 9. Sorry, Cumberland Point. All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. And Nick, you can go ahead to explain number 11.
I did. I explained both Newman's Crossings Phase 1 and 2A.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Let's see, Councilman Carter and Councilman Fennell seconded. Any more discussion on number 10 and 11? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those pass. Thank you, Nick. Number 12 is ordinance number 02412-72, and Chief Beeman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Love and council this evening. The purpose of this item is to appropriate insurance money from the insurance recovery account to the fire department's fire vehicle repair account for damage to the battalion chief's SUV that occurred back in July.
Motion to send on to council.
Again.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Fennell, a second from Councilman Carter. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Number 13, Resolution R2412-94. In fact, Susan, you say Councilman Susan.
This is for one of our grants from our insurance carrier, Public Entity Partners. This is for the James L. Richardson Driver Matching Grant Program. This is, as you recall, these grants that we get from PEP are actually grants that for funds we've already spent, so they're reimbursed to us at 50%. So it's a $5,000 grant, and I believe it's to be used in the HR department, doing the motor vehicle records, and then also for our GPS systems that we've put in.
Motion to send on.
Second.
A motion from Councilman Fennell, a second by Councilman Carter. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Susan. Number 14 is resolution number R2412-96, and Ms. Bates is recognized.
Hey, everybody. I had expected someone from the Recovery Court to be here, but what they are asking for is a waiver of any fees, appropriate fees that can be, are allowed to be waived. They are applying for a grant to build a facility on Dorothy Jordan that would be living space for people coming through and graduating from the recovery court, as I understand it. A safe place for them to be able to continue their recovery. It's not a recovery center, though. It's just a place for them to be able to live coming out of those situations.
Dependency?
Pardon?
Dependency?
Drug recovery, yes, whatever addiction recovery that may be. They are on a very tight timeline to apply for the grant, and then they're on a very tight timeline to spend the money. We've had a few meetings with them, and they will only pursue their project if they get the grant, but they need to be able to factor in funding in their budget to apply for the grant. I hope I'm making sense there. Again, I'd hope they'd be here, but it would certainly be an improvement to the property that they are trying to acquire.
Definitely.
Yes.
Motion to send it on.
Well, I heard Councilman Fan making the motion, and then Councilman Carter seconded at that. Is anyone got any questions about that? All in
Good luck,
favor?
Recovery Court.
None, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion passes.
I will let them know. Thank you.
Jerry. Thank you. That concludes our regular agenda and leads us into other business. Does anyone on council have any other business you'd like to bring up?
I have something really quick. I would just like to thank the folks out at Fire Station 5 for the invitation to come out and hang out last Friday. I really enjoyed myself. I was lucky that they invited me, and it was just cool to hang out and get a tour of the facility and see the things that they do and learn some of the new information and about some of the projects they have going on. So thanks.
Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to department head reports, and I see that Mr. Tuttle has approached the bench.
I actually have an item under other business as well that I placed an ordinance on your desk with the help of Ms. Hamakali's office. I came to you a few weeks ago telling you of a bid that we were hopeful to open but received no bids for a project that would replace the culvert on South Water there and just below the jail. You may be familiar with a little dip in the road right there at the at Dr. Baber's veterinary clinic. So it was to replace that culvert and then the culvert on Winchester Street that's upstream from that. So we received no bids back in November. We rebid it, and we did open 3 bids last week and got actually a really good bid. We would like to move forward. What we have appropriated and available to us is a little shy of what we need. And so this ordinance would appropriate $150,000 and get us to where we can actually construct this project. I do need to ask a favor from you, and that is that you give us permission to sign a contract before we actually get this money appropriated. And that's what I was trying to explain to you a couple of weeks ago, that I would be, asking for this permission to allow the mayor to sign this contract. There's no, obviously no resolution or anything that you could pass before now and December 31st. But the reason why it's urgent is because we have $359,000 in ARPA funds that are part of this project that need to be under contract before we get to the end of the year. Otherwise, we would wait and follow the normal channels when we got there.
Susan?
Yes, I did. I spoke with Ms. Nichols about this, and we reached the conclusion that if council approved it, the mayor could. There is money that would cover this, so the mayor could go ahead and sign the contract.
Motion to approve?
Second.
A motion from Councilman Juvance and a second from Councilman Fennell. Do we need to do anything special since this wasn't on the agenda?
I think that was a motion to allow the mayor to sign the contract. Now you need to
Motion to consider.
move this ordinance forward to the next council meeting, correct? That's what you're
Motion to move the ordinance 02412-76 to council.
Second.
We didn't vote on the first one, on the first motion yet.
Oh, sorry.
So the first motion was just to allow the mayor to sign the contract. So all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that passes. And then we had a motion by
Councilman Juvance, second by
Juvance
Councilman Fennell.
and Fennell to approve this ordinance with the,
Move it on to the
for
next council meeting.
$150,000 to be moved onto the council meeting. Is there any more discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, that passes also. Hey, and Nick, you said you had something else too.
I do, yes, ma'am. So the item that you have under department head reports is a real item, and it is a separate project, actually two separate projects. And I wanted to give you all an update on these because they're big projects, big deals, and we've made some progress, and we wanted to share some of that progress with you. So just to start out with, some of you were all involved in Gallatin on the Move plan and talking through what the city has visioned for Southwater Avenue corridor and just the gateway that it could be, but it's not exactly what we want it to be now. And so from there, we really were looking at, and you can see the quote that's there with it being potentially a creation of a gateway into the city. In 2009, we actually did receive some grant funding to do a portion of this project where, if you're familiar with where Guild Elementary School is, from there heading up north to Maple Street, we were able to go in and pave that out, widen it to a 3-lane section with bike lanes, curb and gutter, grass strips, sidewalks. It looks great, and it really cleaned that area up a lot. So the other phases of this is what I'm giving you an update on tonight, and that's phase 1 and phase 3. Phase 1 is everything north of that section, so coming on into downtown, into the square, and then phase 3 is everything south of that, so going all the way out to the bypass. So we're working on both of those projects simultaneously, trying to move them both forward as we can. I think there are going to be a little bit more complications on the north end than on the south end, and so they may not continue to move together. In 2021, you all appropriated these funds for both of these projects, and I've got a typo. That meant this $871,000 was for phase 3, not phase 2. So we signed a contract, I think it was probably last year, with Reagan Smith Associates to begin to develop concepts and begin design. Just recently, we held a concept design meeting, and this group includes Mayor Brown, our city planner, our EDA director, our public works director, our assistant city engineer for capital improvements, and myself. And this is kind of the group that's driving these designs forward. And you can see these are some things that we talked about and have decided to move forward, keeping in mind all of the gateway features that we would like to see on the corridor. We think it's going to be a challenge to incorporate landscaping and some of those other features with a lot of the conflicts that we know we're going to have with various utilities that exist on the corridor. But we believe that there are some great opportunities with a couple of roundabouts at some existing intersections. And that's one of the things that I wanted to share. I've got an image to show. But this cross-section is the image that I was trying to describe to you, where we have 3 lanes with bike lanes, curb and gutter, grass strip, sidewalk. This is what we are expecting to be able to utilize for both Phase 1 and Phase 3, except for the end of Phase 1 as we get past the railroad track coming into downtown where it gets tighter. So we don't think that we'll be able to maintain the grass strip. Probably we'll have to push the bikes into the through lane where it's what we call a share row. You may have heard us talk about that. Bill McCord talked about it a lot. If you were around to listen to him and try to fight for the bicyclist. But we do have lower speeds. It's tighter in through there. And so they can be safe driving in the same lane as our vehicles. So this is just another typical section engineer stuff, if that helps you to visualize it a little bit better. But it's exactly what I've been describing. But this is the fun part that I wanted to show you, because we had some concepts that were drawn up of the 2 potential roundabout intersections. One is the signalized intersection at Park Avenue and Maples. Well, the signal is at Maple Street, but with some right-of-way acquisition, we can actually remove this goofy jogged intersection and bring it into a 4-legged intersection and create really what I think can be a really good-looking intersection where landscaping features could be added in, and our consultant created a pretty little image that could be what this intersection could look like. So this is looking north. So downtown, the square is looking off into the distance here, with Maple Street going off to the left and Park Avenue going off to the right. So just a concept and idea of what it could look like. I think there are some driveway challenges that would have to be worked through, but the geometry does work. And so we'd be able to remove a traffic signal and create a safer intersection for what would also be part of a gateway feature. And then the other intersection is further south, where this has gotten flipped to the side. So South Water heading to the south is to the left of the screen, so the bypass is to the left. On the top of the page is actually where the new public store is, and this is an intersection that on that side, the public side, is new. Kendra Drive is old and has been there for quite some time, but this one we think is where you could really, this could be, I think, kind of prime showpiece as it comes into the more historic downtown area. We are actually thinking about potential for using our City of Gallatin logo and using that as some design, I guess, inspiration for the middle of the roundabout and how it may be landscaped. And as you look at it from an aerial perspective, you would actually see what the City of Gallatin logo is. But we're open to any thoughts or ideas you may have on that, and if anybody wants to be involved in that part of the process, we would welcome your input as we continue to move this forward. Right now, we're looking to get Reagan Smith under a full design contract to begin to get them going. This is going to take a while because there will be some lengthy right-of-way processes that we'll have to go through. So we're still looking at probably 2 to 3 years away from us beginning construction. But we're having to make some really important decisions now so that we're on path to be able to do that. So I want to share that with you again. If you want to be part of the discussion as we move forward, happy to hear anything you have to say tonight, but there's going to be a lot more talking as we move forward. So feel free to to reach out and let's talk.
I like that a lot, Nick.
Yeah,
Like it too.
good deal.
And that's a deserving part of town that it is one of our gateways, so it'll look nice that way. Thank you, Nick.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other department heads have anything to report or to say?
Motion adjourned.
All right, we got a motion to adjourn from Councilman Fennell and second by Councilman Carter. All in favor, say
Aye.
say aye.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say, spread the holiday spirit by being nice.
See y'all next year.